Actions radio show, where we talk about ideas that matter. I'm Laurie Fitz, your host, and it's been a tough week in Minnesota. To witness through the videos the killing of Renee Nicole Good has been horrific. Good. She was a good woman in so many ways. I thought of John Lewis and his quote, "Get in good trouble, necessary trouble, and help redeem the soul of America." It breaks my heart that she lost her life in such a horrific way. I don't know if it can help with the redemption of America's soul to have Renee die in such a senseless way, but I'm going to try to do good trouble in her honor. Renee Nicole Good, a mother, poet, and a community-minded woman who cared about immigrants and what was happening in her neighborhood. When I first saw her picture, I had like this maternal surge come over me. She could have been my daughter. She could have been a colleague. I've had the privilege the last few years of working with kind, smart, and wonderful women her age, mothers of young children, women who cared. She could have been a guest on this show, talking about her poetry. She had won an award in 2020, a poetry award from the Old Dominion University. Vance shared that we should thank ICE for killing Renee Nicole Good, that she was a domestic terrorist, and that her death was a tragedy of her own making. The sanctity of her life dismissed. Her last words, "I'm not mad at you." Her children's stuffy toys hanging from the glove compartment. Doesn't look or sound like a terrorist to me. Vance goes on, "This is a guy who's actually done a very, very important job for the United States." Vance said asking for prayers for Ross and condemning the media for reports on the killing. He's been assaulted. He's been attacked. He's been injured because of it. He deserves a debt of gratitude. What I saw in the videos was a man who got yelled at by women, who got mad, and as Renee pulled away, he shot a 37-year-old mother in the face. He was clearly safe at the time when he took the shot, gun in one hand, video cam in the other. He shot her in the head and killed her, like an executioner, like a surreal video game or James Bond movie. No regard for her life. His words after killing her, "Effing bitch." I ask us all to think about who is the domestic terrorist. And then no rendering of care. Again, where is the respect for the sanctity of life? Vance referred to an incident from June in which the court documents say Ross broke the car window and a man wasn't complying with a traffic stop, and he reached inside and the man tried to drive away, and Ross's arm reportedly stuck inside the car, and Ross was dragged, requiring stitches. And Vance went on, "So you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile?" Vance said, suggesting that Ross's past trauma justifies him in killing Good, whom he painted as a victim of left-wing ideology. Interestingly, the footage of the shooting showed that Good had arrived minutes before ICE officers did and wasn't blocking any cars from being able to proceed in the street. It also showed that Ross was easily able to move out of the way of the car. But Vance considers her a domestic terrorist. So today we're going to talk about it. I'm encouraging you to join the conversation. Our phone number is 952-946-6205. And we'll be repeating the number throughout the hour. Your voice is important. We want to hear what you have to say. I'm dividing the show up into 3 segments. The first segment is Who Are We? The second segment's What Are We Feeling? And the last is What Can We Do? Joining me today is my co-host Rick Bernardo. Thanks, Rick. And how are you doing?
Well, this morning, aside from waking up out of not only sleep, but also every morning this week since the 7th of January, I woke up in bed thinking, what happened again? So it's just
Kind of a fog?
it's a fog, and it's a natural question, and I think it's after I wake up, I realize it's a natural thing to just be wondering at so many levels and in so many dimensions. Uh, and this morning, um, I got a message from a good friend from seminary saying she's just been, you know, furious all week, and it's just nonstop. And I realize that there are tides of that emotion coming up for me. Those are hard waves to ride, but that's part of being a responsible adult. Is like, what do we do with um, anger, um, some terror, really, just in the sense of there feels like no control over what seem like Gestapo tactics. I mean, any and now here's the thing: people say it's not fair to compare this to Nazism or Gestapo or this and that, but anything on that landscape we shouldn't be near. We shouldn't even be near any degree. It's not all or nothing. It's not like as bad as, but that's not a good contest to be in right now. And I think our country is on that landscape of like how dictatorial, how tyrannical, how much of a cult of cruelty can we be in as a nation?
And the Twin Cities, we've gone through a lot. We had George Floyd's death almost 5 years ago. Melissa Hortman, an incredible DFL leader, killed in June by someone dressed up like law enforcement. Children murdered during a church service in August. And now Renee Nicole Good, killed by an ICE agent. A mother dropping off her son, a loving, strong Christian woman, a community activist, an ally to immigrants. Our heart hurts for all of these needless deaths. And Trump paints Minnesota as a radical left group of lunatics. So, a question that I have for all of our listeners to think about and to share, because I think it's really important for us to say who we are, is for having you call in and tell us, who are we? How do we see ourselves as Minnesotans, as part of the Twin City? What connects us? What makes us who we are? A friend of mine sent me a note saying, our neighborhood became close and strong during the unrest that followed George Floyd's murder. And those ties serve us well now. Vance is not wrong in saying that there's a left-wing network, though he's certainly not right about it being a nefarious thing that he makes it out to be. When we hear whistles, we come out. Many are on Discord and WhatsApp. Those are groups and threads that notify us that actions are taking place. We are not afraid to show up, observe, document. We are holding vigils and marching, even in the cold rain last night. We will not stop. I have another friend joining us today to talk about what he thinks about Minnesota. Dion, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
You wrote something on Facebook that moved me and got me thinking about what I wanted for our show today. And you were so eloquent in how you shared about your feelings about Minnesota, and I'd love to have you share that.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I was like many, I was distraught on Wednesday about what happened, and seeing the way some politicians were describing what was happening, and then seeing with my own eyes what really happened. And I'm sitting at my kitchen table at night, sad and bewildered, and my head was really on fire, and I was thinking of what you're talking about, George Floyd, and all of the terrible things that have happened here. And I'm not from here originally. I moved to the Twin Cities in '95, and I've lived all around the world and visited many places. I've got family and friends elsewhere, and I'm just wondering what they were thinking of Minneapolis, where I live. And I get concerned messages from people: "Are you okay? Oh my God, we saw what was happening." Da da da. So I just wrote this thing just to tell people really what it's like to be here, to live here. So that's what I'll read. I'm writing this to make me feel a little better on a very sad day. I'm writing this for any of my friends who have never been to Minneapolis and who might wonder what the city is really like, given that it seems to have had more than enough violence and unrest. Though it's been called a war zone and war torn, here's what it's really like to live in Minneapolis. When I first came to this city as a visitor, I was wandering around downtown looking a bit lost. A stranger came up to me and asked me where I was looking to go. Instead of giving directions, he walked 7 blocks with me to show me the restaurant. Minneapolis is like a big, small town where everyone is a couple of degrees separation from each other. It is famous for Minnesota nice, which can be understood as a frosty, insincere kindness, but I have come to see as just basic politeness. When your car gets stuck in the snow, which happens often, neighbors come from nowhere with shovels and sand to get you free. When a black man is murdered by a policeman, the entire city comes down on the side of justice. And yes, we have our racial divides like all cities, and we're not as good at dealing with them as we should be. And the murder of George Floyd was not the first. But this city said enough is enough. When we were first described as a war zone, I went for a walk. I think it was an early summer's day. The leaves were budding. People were out enjoying the weather, walking their dogs and kids. It was beautiful and peaceful and as far from a war zone as you could imagine. Minneapolis has the highest rate of voter involvement in the country. Remember, voting is not mandatory in the USA, but Minneapolis comes out in force because we care. We also rate way up top for citizen philanthropy. Minneapolis has one of the world's greatest park systems. We have rivers, creeks, and lakes, all joined together with bike paths. In fact, we are consistently named one of the best biking cities in the world. You don't need to be a bike geek to enjoy the consequences. What it means is we value nature and access to nature, and living just a little bit slower. Pound for pound, we have one of the best arts and music scenes in the country. Thank Prince, thank a progressive population that supports artists. Our education system is one of the best in the country, from early childhood all the way through nailing your PhD. We out-hit other states for Fortune 500 companies per capita. Why? Partly about a stable, educated workforce, partly about a business-friendly environment that allows companies to thrive for the betterment of all. Are we perfect? No. Are we a war zone? No. This is a wonderful city, one that I feel fortunate to have stumbled upon. Come here one day and see for yourself. Don't believe the BS fed to you by your media or certain politicians. I'm just so sick that one of the kindest, most low-key, beautiful cities in the world is being cast as a hellhole.
Thank you so much for sharing how you feel and what you see here in the Twin Cities, a place I love as well. When you were talking about getting pulled out of the snow, my family's from Minnesota, although I didn't grow up here. I came here every summer or a holiday because all of my relatives were here. But I drove here in 1978. I left D.C. area during the Iran hostage crisis. I just wanted to leave D.C. And when I came here, I did not know how to drive in the snow. And I went off the road by 35W exit and 94 East. And all these people came over. And I was terrified. I locked the doors. It was like, this is a dangerous situation. And they had to like talk me down. They're tapping on the window and saying, you're safe. We're here to help you. And something happened. You know, they got me out of that ditch and said, we're here to help. And it was like, I'm never going to leave here. and the fact that I was so terrified.
Yeah.
And then that moment of like connection of, we care about you. We're going to make sure you're okay was powerful. You've been active in your community. Tell me more about that too.
Well, yes, I go to protests, and last night there was a little community protest just down the street from me, and I walked down with my family. There were about 70 people on the street corner with signs and waving to passers-by, horns honking. Probably 50% of the cars that drove by were honking back, so it felt good. One of my kids, it was the first protest they'd been to, and they said, we didn't do anything. It didn't feel like we did anything. And I said, we did plenty. We showed up. Our bodies were there. And not only that, it doesn't it feel good to be around other people and to know that you're not alone, that we're a part of something positive. So just the fact of just turning up and waving and seeing other people feeling the same way about what's going on felt really good.
It is tempting to isolate ourselves. It's tempting to withdraw. But Minnesotans aren't like that. We're going to step forward and we're going to do something.
And I think it's so great for any of us at any time in life to look for ways to show up. That's a phrase that could mean so many things in so many ways, and that's a powerful life.
I've had several friends from around the country send me notes going, I'm so proud of Minnesota. I'm so proud that you stand up and you say no. So, Dion, thank you. Thank you for your gift of,
Laurie, thank you.
and I appreciate all that you're doing. And thank you for standing up. And thank you for being there with your kids to make a difference. We'll be right
Yeah.
back after some commercials. And I'd love to have you join the conversation. Our number is 952-946-6205. Tell us how you're feeling. We want to be there for you. We want to give you a chance to show up and share what you see and what you want for our Minnesota. Again, that number is 952-946-6205. And we'll be right back. Good morning, and welcome back to Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas that matter. I'm Laurie Fitz, your host, and Rick Bernardo, my co-host, is with me today.
Hi, Laurie. And we continue in the Twin Cities to wake up from various levels of literal attacks on different parts of the community. I was just right after the killing that we're talking about today. There were ICE raids on schools.
Oh, right after they didn't even wait after Ross had murdered Renee, they went off to a school.
I don't even know if it was the same people. There's thousands and thousands of, and I don't know how coordinated it is. It's a ICE didn't even have a great reputation until before, but in the past year or two, it's got billions, literally billions of dollars to just put bounties on certain things.
And I have so many questions. I think we all have questions that we're grappling with. The whys. We could see that the tires were pointed away. We could see that she backed up and she was moving forward, that he was clearly out of the way. So I don't understand why shots were even needed. But let's say he wants to take shots. Why not at the tire? Why not disable the car and hit the tires? I mean, that's one question I have. Why was it important, as he was videotaping with one hand and had the gun on the other, to point it at her head? I don't that's something I don't think we'll ever be able to truly understand. We know that he was mad. The newly released video shows Good and her wife. The wife was clearly upset and arguing. And arguing can lead to anger and frustration. And he dealt with the past of being dragged. But is that PTSD? Is that anger management issue? A woman's dead.
And to try to reel back something here, most of the police authorities I've listened to, because I've taught police in my university classes. I have family members who are part of police enforcement, and I honor that kind of work. But most of those that, I haven't heard any that did not say you shouldn't have your gun out in that situation. It's just not called for, and it risks somebody getting killed.
No one else pulled their gun. He was the only one that pulled his gun. What caused the sense of such danger? If he put himself in front of the car initially, and then he pulled to the side.
And And here's the thing. We'll have a lot of time to digest all
Oh,
of
yeah.
this, and we're still doing that. Um, in the interest and worthy goal of being fair, we're going to have to discover like what was the intent, what was the action, what happened, what happened, what happened. We're going to ask that over and over again. Um, I think the larger terror, fear, and anger that comes, anger always sits on top of some, it's a protective reaction. And I think the biggest source of that for us is that we don't sense that there's a path to justice. Justice is just how do we be fair? How do we be a loving community? How do we be the kind of community that Dion was talking about? How do we do that? And the powers, the not the inspirational powers of spirit and emotion and community, but the political powers that are supposed to represent us and supposed to be us are just saying, forget that, forget any of that.
And it adds to the fears, it adds to the terror that our BCA is no longer a part of it. Well, I don't want to say that, that they're not getting the information.
And say BCA,
Oh, I'm sorry, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension.
because it could
Yeah,
be Boundary
yeah.
Waters or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, that's all right.
I also had a chance working with law enforcement. I worked with the BCA.
Yeah,
I worked with proficiency testing with law enforcement, and no folks there. They're brilliant. They're amazing. They're some of the best in the country. And I have nothing but admiration. And when I first heard that they were going to be a part of it, I went, oh, great. We'll have Minnesota be part of something important in this investigation. And who knows how it's all going to unfold. And I've heard many different ideas about how it's moving forward. It's just sad that it feels like right now that we're being shut out by the FBI. It feels like our voice isn't going to be heard.
and everything I've seen and heard says that's happening. That's why it feels that way.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, things are changing as we speak, maybe, but again, Dion was talking about showing up, and this is, a place to search individually and collectively for how do we show up to see a fair process, to see justice, because that's in the interest of everybody as a community.
And how do we deal with our feelings during that? I'm going to also make sure that folks know that we welcome your voice. Our phone number is 952 946 6205. We welcome your thoughts. Right now, we're talking about feelings, but anything you want to say, you can join us. I also understand this is a tough time to even feel okay about talking. And it's okay that you don't want to call in today. We're good and glad that you're listening and part of the conversation by joining us. But if you want to say something, we're here for you. Again, that's 952 946 6205. So, with the sense of being isolated and not necessarily feeling like justice may take a lot longer. And we've already been dealing with a lot of challenges in the last 5 years. What do we do? When you have worked with police and you've worked with others in discussing ethical issues, making the choice to use your gun is an ethical issue. Talk to me about that.
Well, I don't have hands-on experience literally with that. From what I hear, from what I've seen, any sort of martial art is an art. Any sort of weaponry, fighting technique, the tools of that, there's a discipline to that. And discipline just means being a student of what's going to be effective. And most of the police with whom I've worked, I've been fortunate enough that I've worked with them, sometimes with the American Indian community, sometimes in class, sometimes just on the street, just talking to them. I've been fortunate enough to work with those sort of people who care. And they actually bridle at the unfair image of them being punitive enforcers, because that's not what most of them. That's not why they went into that business, so to speak. It's a profession, supposed to be. So
And they care. And
yeah,
getting back to the sanctity of life, I believe law enforcement does the work that is done because of belief in the sanctity of life. When the sanctity of life is no longer respected, I'm not sure it's law enforcement. I don't know what it is.
no, I don't know either. That's why I said before the ICE that department. I listened to and worked with a former ICE member who wrote a book. Jen Budd is her name. She wrote a book called Against the Wall, and she saw a lot of corruption in departments of ICE, and it's not shouldn't be blanket, but that was like 3, 4, 5 years ago, and her history goes back 10, 15 years in that. So, uh, immigration enforcement as a department of policing a type, it's a special kind. It's supposed to be near the border, by the way. It's supposed to be,
That's supposed to be in
yeah,
metro
yeah,
areas.
yeah. Anyway, but that whole there's a lot of targeting. There's a lot of recrimination that I heard stories about, personal stories of people with ICE. Now, and that was years ago. That's and in the past 2 years, even going back to the first administration with Trump, um, all of a sudden there's children in cages. All of a sudden, I mean, uh, that's that's old news. So the sanctity of life and the life that is the future of our communities, being our children, all of that's supposed to be sacred in somehow, in some way. And there were toddlers showing up in court because they were arrested. A toddler, and all I could do is cry because they don't know what's happening. A toddler in court near the border who was arrested. That's that's the sociopathic in some way. It's I just saw an Onion article. It's a satire piece, and it said DHS has announces watch list for mothers driving cars. Um, that's not far from. I don't know if that's the terrain we're in right now, and it's absurd. It's scary, and it's appropriate to be, as I've been the past 3 or 4 days, nauseous and livid.
We know there's been racial profiling. We know that that's part of the game is if you look Latino, even if you happen to be Native American, as we talked about at one
Well,
point,
yeah, it's
that
if you look,
Yeah.
yeah.
you if you are dark skinned, you are at risk, and there's something very wrong with that. And then it's also wrong to have the bystanders that are there as an ally be threatened. I mean, what is our role now as an ally? I, we have to be fearless in taking on the challenge. It's not just um, racial profiling. You know, it's something more going on that's deeper and um, more terrifying.
There's been more than once that I've just said, like, look, I'm a white guy. I'm not even in the crosshairs of a lot of this, and that's why it's important to collectively show up for one another. Um,
You live in the Minneapolis area.
yeah,
How's it going?
um, it's hard to know. I mean, but there's not one person I've come across in the past week. And mostly I'm at working. You know, I've got another day gig job, but without exception, everybody's very sensitive to a tragedy, and they notice that this presidential administration and their representatives are not sensitive. They actually are casting the victim as a domestic terrorist, which, um, let me put it this way, premature and that's speaking very, very timidly.
I don't think it's premature. I think we know she's not a domestic terrorist.
No, it's a premature thing to say, but it's ridiculous. It's absurd.
We do have Dana joining us, and Dana, thank you for being
You're welcome.
of our. Dana is an amazing musician, uh, and I love her, and I am so glad that you are joining us today. Uh, tell me
Thank
how.
you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Tell me how you're feeling.
Well, I'm really sad um, and angry, and the fact that the racial profiling is crazy. And then, but this is a white woman that
Yep,
was dropping off her son, and I just say if it can happen to her, it can happen to anybody. And I the level of cruelty, I have a very hard time wrapping my head around. So I'm stunned, like everyone else is. But when I get this way, I have to do something, and I want to encourage people that there are over 1,000 protests this weekend. Please join one. I posted a link on my Facebook, but I was just looking at them today, and it's there's Richfield, St. Louis Park, Apple Valley, Prior Lake, St. Paul, and then we're talking about Richmond, Wisconsin, Cambridge, Amory, Pepin, Rice Lake. I mean, come on, Mason City, Brainerd. People are upset. This is not the time to just despair. It would be very easy to go into a fetal position.
absolutely. In our last segment, we talked about who we are as Minnesotans. Who do you see us as, Dana?
I see us as people that link arm to arm and stand together, and they are destroying our community, and we won't let them. Um, I see us. I moved here in '82. I didn't know that you moved here in '78. That was interesting. And the first winter that they had um, the snow parking ban thing,
Yep.
uh, I was towed more than once, and I had a really terrible van. And but I remember being out there and people helping me. I've always been able to, you know, reach out to my neighbors. You're out in the front, and this is a neighborhood. I go to the store and I run into people I know. This is a community that is close knit. Minnesotans are nice people, and we've got some really not nice people that have come in here and are trying to paint us as this horrible community. And it's like it's just the narrative is mind boggling. The level of lying. I just, and then to watch this woman gunned down in cold blood when she was just trying to leave is it was I was watching, and I'm proud of our people. Our people are standing up, but they're standing up in a nonviolent way because it's so important. You cannot get violent. The protests need to remain nonviolent, and that's where we show our character, is the fact that we can do that in great numbers and not have incidents of violence occur unless it's from outside agitators.
When you protest and you're out um, with arm in arm, tell me about how you feel when you're doing that.
Not alone.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. Not alone. And anyone that's feeling despair, like, and want to throw your hands up in the air and go, well, what can we do? We're just one person. When you show up at a protest and you have all these people around you, the energy is amazing. And you need that because it recharges you. You are not alone. That's how it makes me feel. And it makes me proud to know that there's people like this. And you strike up friendships and conversations, and all of a sudden, uh, your community is larger because of it. I feel good when I go. That's why I do it. I show up.
And Dana, you and I know it's winter in Minnesota, so people are going outside for hours, thousands and thousands of us.
Well, because we know how to dress. I mean,
Yes.
Well,
Layers.
there is
Layers.
there is that, but
We
yes,
learned how to dress those who moved here.
it's still a talented
we
choice. Yeah.
And right, and it is cold, and it was raining, and they were outside the Whipple building, but that was at 7 in the morning, and I work nights, and I just watched them. I went like, "I'm proud of you, but that's a little out of my purview."
Got it.
But, uh but, I just wanna say, I'm trying to get some help from my neighbor. My neighbor went to her immigration hearing uh on Thursday and was detained by ICE, and they currently have her locked up. And her husband was actually able to finally speak with her yesterday, and they informed her they were going to send her to Texas and back to Ecuador, and she was doing what she was supposed to do. And it's like this is a shooting this woman. This is a symptom of the cancer that has leaked into our society with this horrible, horrible occupation of ICE. This woman is a wife and a mother, so my mind is kind of there right now. I'm trying to find some help for her and let people know who she is so that she doesn't disappear
Wow.
because they're disappearing people. It's Elena del Rocio Sinche Ataguana. My Spanish is terrible. I'm sorry, but she didn't do anything. She showed up to her lawful hearing and then was snatched. That's the kind of stuff. These are evil, evil people, and the evil. That's what you saw when she was murdered. You saw pure evil. I don't know who this man is. I'm sure he has a family and the people that love him. But when he said what he said as he walked away from her, I thought, "You're not a nice guy. Not
And
a nice guy."
collectively, a doctor, as many of us know now, tried to help. It says, can I take a pulse?
I don't care.
And they said, I don't care. And that resonates. That's like an echo in my head at the bottom of most of this.
It's evil. It's evil. And we're looking at evil right in the face. And we have to be the shining beacon of good, which is why we need to remain peaceful, but we need to protest. Everyone, make your voice heard however you can. Put a sign in your front yard. Something. Talk to people. Keep the conversation going. You cannot evil cannot stand to the light. It cannot hold itself together when a light is shined on it.
I
And we
just
have to be that light.
Dana, I want you to stay with us if you can. We're going to need to take a break. I've, of course, gone way over, but we need to do some commercials. But please stay with us because I want to talk in our next segment about what we can do. And you started that with our conversation, and I have a few more suggestions that have come in from folks that care as well and want people to know about things that they can do. I
Well,
also,
thank you for having me, and I really enjoy listening to your program. You're very articulate, and it's
oh,
like this needs to be said, okay?
yes. And you'll
And
stay with me for the next segment too?
sure, I'll hang out.
All right, great.
I've got my coffee. I'm in
Okay,
good
good,
shape.
good, good, good. All right. Well, we'll be right back and we'll continue our conversation. Thanks so much, Dana. Welcome back to Connections Radio Show, where we talk about ideas that matter. I'm Laurie Fitz, your host, and Rick Bernardo is my co-host today. Welcome, Rick.
Yes, we're all continuing to wake up in many ways. And when Dana was just sharing about the importance of being a light or lights, plural, it reminded me on my way home from a walk last night. I noticed two houses from me, a huge picture window with blue and red lights, and I realized, oh, that spells out no ice. It's huge and it's bright, and that took being a little bit of a project. And there's a lot of that going on. We're going to have to continue to show up, be lights, and be incredibly um, innovative in not just that way, but politically, legally. Um, I've got friends that are showing up with tubas, as artists, and we're going to have to be artists of politics.
And those tuba players, as I understand it, was right in front of the hotel that the ICE were trying to sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Good.
There's strategery going on there.
And Dana, you're showing up also by being there for your friend who
I'm trying. I'm just so upset about that. I mean, her little boy is at home wondering where's my mother,
and
and
she was
they
doing what
hesitate to go do anything because it's like then they'll be picked up too. So that's why I'm trying to help. I said, let the old white woman help. Okay, I'll do that.
And she was doing everything she thought she was supposed to. And
She
that's
was doing everything she was supposed to do. Yes, it is
Legally.
cruelty, cruelty, cruelty.
well, a friend of mine sent along a posting that that she had seen that she thought was important for us to think about. Churches, schools, and legions of volunteers are funding and organizing drives to purchase and deliver food to immigrant families too fearful to leave their homes, as you just mentioned. Volunteers are posting at schools to watch for ICE, especially when kids are released. One of the more horrifying things that I heard about was that they were actually videotaping their time at the schools like some bizarre reality show, and so wrong on so many levels. And because the Minneapolis schools were closed, the neighbors are offering daycare, snacks, games, and supplies to assist the families. Immigrant businesses are keeping their doors locked and only admitting people on an individual basis, but people are patronizing these businesses to support them. Um, and some are just closed out of respect for the killing of Renee Good. Neighbors are distributing free alert whistles and literature to one another in case of ICE sightings. Thousands of people are taking upstander trainings to support people who are attacked by ICE. Nonprofits are mobilizing to protect communities, and donors are stepping up to invest in these efforts. And we're all checking in on each other. And we're not going to roll over in fear. We're acting from a place of being caring, protective, and just humans. We are doing what we can forge on despite this attack on our community. And this is what fighting can look like. I thought it was very powerful. Um,
It's good.
we need we need to think of what we need to be heroes. And heroes aren't folks that are just superheroes that can have amazing powers. Heroes are the folks that have courage, and courage is you know the danger and you do it anyway. You're brave, even when you're scared. In fact, being scared is part of being brave. It's choosing something bigger than yourself, and that can be very difficult. Um, it can shut us down or it can move us forward. Dana, you and I have often talked about how art is so important in um, shaping ideas, shaping answers, shaping ways of thinking. Tell me what you think about with your music and music in general, and what music can do to support us moving forward.
What can music do? Music is, it feeds your soul. Um, I I run shows where everybody sings and people can get up and sing with me. And it was did a show last night, and there's a general sense of there's a little lack of energy because people are depressed, they're upset, they're sad, and I encourage everyone to sing because it lightens your soul. Music can change your mood. You know that yourself.
Yeah.
A piece of music can take you right back to to an incident or a time in your life. That's why we like music, and it's so essential. I don't see any ice agents singing.
You so noted.
I don't know if that was in the job description.
Right.
Uh,
But maybe if it was, they wouldn't be so cruel. You know,
Good
these
point.
people need to lighten up. I don't know where they came from, but they need to go back.
Well, we will
The
have
curse is, may you live in interesting times.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
We'll be having more conversations. Unfortunately, this isn't going to go away anytime soon. And I appreciate you being part of opening the conversation and having us explore together who we are as Minnesotans, what do we feel, and what we can do. And everyone's voice is important. And I know that our audience is going through their own trauma. Um, our Twin Cities have been traumatized, and we are now living with another trauma that we need to work through. But as you said, Dana, we're not alone when we lock arms.
No, be
We're,
brave. I love this sentiment. Be brave.
be brave. Do what you're afraid to do in terms of um, feeling threatened. We all feel threatened right now. And we could lock ourselves in our house, or we could show up and be empowered and do it for the right reason. Do good trouble for Renee Good.
Thanks for
Can I
having this
just go ahead
conversation.
and plug this organization? I think that I've been given a thing where there's a
Quick, quick, quick.
welcomecore.org,
Less than 8 seconds. Go for it.
welcomecore.org. You can
Thanks.
sponsor an immigrant family.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
We need that.
And thank you for listening today on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.